Does anyone remember the arguments by Ahmed Deedat where, he says son means servant, son of God means servant of God, or God has sons by the tons? I came to a conclusion a while back and realized that these arguments are completely bogus, and they're pretty damaging towards Islamic theology. At least in my view they are. I mean, let me tell you what I think. On the one hand, we Christians say that Jesus is the only unique Son of God, right? That's what we Christians say. Whereas, the Quran denies Allah having a son. Ahmed Deedat's inconsistent, and so is everyone else who uses his argument. If God has sons by the tons, that negates Islam. Okay, if we were to go by that argument, sons by the tons, and they point to Genesis 6:2, where it talks about the angels coming to sleep with the women. That is assuming in the context they are angels. But that's another issue, neither here nor there. Now, if God has sons by the tons, Muslims have a problem. This disqualifies Allah as being the God of the Bible. Now, I remember Shadid Lewis trying to say, well, you Christians perverted the use of the word son. No, we didn't. And I would like Shadid Lewis to provide evidence of that. If he's got evidence for that, prove it. Anyway, the other argument, which is also inconsistent, is son meaning servant. This is damaging also to Islam. If you read John 3:16, and we're all familiar with that, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, or gave his only unique son, or one and only son. I'm sure you're familiar with that verse. Now, if Ahmed Deedat's logic was correct, or any other Muslim apologist's argument was correct, then this means Jesus is the only... Let's apply Ahmed Deedat's logic to John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only servant. Now, if we were to apply that logic, that would disqualify Muhammad as a servant, wouldn't it? So, both arguments really do not stand up to scrutiny when you really think about them. They can't have their cake and eat it too. They can't say God has sons by the tons, because Allah denies having a son, and they cannot say that son means servant, because that would mean Jesus is the only servant, according to John 3:16, if we were to apply the Muslim logic. So, any apologist like Sami Zaatari or even Ahmed Deedat who want to use that argument, I suggest you stop, otherwise you destroy your own position practically. Anyway, those are just my thoughts on what I think about those two particular arguments put forward by Muslims. If you really think about it, both arguments backfire on one another, practically, but I leave you guys to be the judge of that. Thanks for watching.